and welcome back to day 2 of the HGC Finals here at the Blizzard Arena in Burbank, California. My name is Kevin, and we're about 4 matches into this broadcast day. We got 3 more to go. Wherever you are out there, I hope you're having a great Friday. It's Friday afternoonish here locally, and if you're getting off work, we'd love to see you. Come on down. We still got a lot of really great games to go, so stick around for sure. We just finished watching Tempest from Korea take a 2-0 victory over Leftovers. Leftovers from EU in a dire position. Their fate isn't sealed yet, but they have to perform flawlessly going forward, and their opponents basically have to perform poorly for them to get a seat at BlizzCon. But up next, Dignitas, #1 from EU, against HeroesHearth Esports, #1 from NA, the best from EU against the best from NA. This is gonna be a fun one. Gillyweed, let's go over to you.
That's right, thank you, Kevin. The best in the West prepared to do battle between HeroesHearth Esports and Team Dignitas. Welcome back. I've got Caldor and Wolf here to help me break down not only the upcoming match, but also the past one. Let's talk a little bit about this. As Kevin alluded to now, the fate of Leftovers kind of out of their hands. It's going to depend a lot on some of the future matches, including one that's coming up later today.
Exactly, so basically in a nutshell what has to happen is the one has to lose at least one map against Mind Freak, and then Leftovers have to just walk over Mind Freak without dropping anything. So at this point it looks very likely that Leftovers are out of the group, and that's a very, very poor performance considering what the ambitions were heading into the tournament.
We're going to tune into the standings, but continue.
No, I was just going to say it's like a historic moment, right, if they don't make it through, because it hasn't happened to Europe before to not actually make it through the initial group stage, because Europe's been one of the more dominant regions in Heroes of the Storm history, so it's just kind of a crazy thing to see that the one, especially at China's weakest time, might actually be the ones to advance instead.
It's also so interesting because Leftovers were so strong within the European region, but then again, they had problems heading into BlizzCon. They didn't have a boot camp. Dignitas left Europe to scrim in Korea, Team Liquid scrimmed in North America, and all of a sudden there were no teams left to really practice against outside of mixed teams, and that definitely didn't really help them. I still expected them to come out stronger than what we've seen so far from them.
I totally agree. I felt like they were one of our Dark Horse teams along with Miracle, but for Tempest, this is righting some missteps from yesterday, losing a game to the one, and Tempest desperate to make it to BlizzCon because they were the only Korean team to not make it to BlizzCon actual last year when they fell to Roll20 Esports. So a big deal for them that they're able to get those 2 wins. We have 3 best of 2s left for today. We're starting off with Team Dignitas versus HeroesHearth Esports. That's going to be a really fun one, so we hope you stick around. And then Mind Freak versus the one, that is one that has a lot of implications for Leftovers now, as well as the one and Mind Freak themselves. And finally, we end the day with another NA versus EU match as we switch back on over to Group A. And that one is looking extra fun now, guys, because Tempo Storm, they won their match versus BTG 2-0, but Team Liquid takes a game off of Gen G.
Yeah, it's a very exciting match. Gen G was able to 2-0 Tempo, so you have to wonder where those 3 kind of end up on like a triangular scale, right? Is it a rock, paper, scissors between the 3 in terms of style?
Sorry to interrupt you here. I'm not the only one who really wanted to cast that game with Wolf. When Gen G finally lost.
I was sad we didn't get to do it together. Yeah. I also wanted to cast it, even when they lost.
That would be very enjoyable.
He just wants to be able to shove it in your face a little bit. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll get back to him when BlizzCon goes.
I want to see if God's leaked bodily fluids. Like, I needed to know.
I'm going to lose out in the end, but give me those few high moments that we have here.
Yeah, it's really important that we give Caldor his moments. It's not having a BlizzCon title for Europe. Sometimes it could just
it hurts.
Be so hard.
It hurts.
Hard on this guy here.
I mean, it doesn't hurt as much as not winning anything in the 3 years after, but it's still...
So moving on, we're going to get into our next match then, aren't we? And start talking about HeroesHearth Esports. HeroesHearth getting the win over Leftovers, and now we call it a question, where exactly Leftovers are feeling. But you can't take away anything from HeroesHearth because they came in with 2 different kinds of compositions, and they executed very well with both of them.
I almost feel like HeroesHearth is maybe the most prepared team for specific strategies that we've seen in this tournament, plus execution, right? Preparation leading into execution has been amazing. I really enjoyed, in particular, watching their reset composition we had with the Polymorph build on right wing with Genji earlier. That was just, it's a composition that is so difficult to pull off, but when you do, it's so difficult to deal with. It's so hard to stop. So their series earlier against the Leftovers was inspiring to me, and I think that going to be one of the fun things that Dignitas is now trying to figure out how to shut these types of styles down in draft.
They were always a really great team that especially is very grounded. They have a really good attitude towards the game. It was a bit heartbreaking to actually see them not really perform all that well as the Western Clash. But so far here, they presented themselves extremely well, represented their region, played a fantastic series against the leftovers with snap engages that were just absolutely perfectly catering towards their composition, and then played a completely different style in game number 2. So that's what I really like about them and Tempo Storm right now, that we have different strategies and ideas coming in and a good execution behind it.
Yeah, I feel like they are showing us that preparation and time spent into knowing why something works for them. And I also want to shout out Hami because he fit in so well with them. There were a lot of questions with how little time they had with Hami, but the integration has been very good for their synergy. And it's truly great to see that this synergistic team is not falling apart and that they can bring someone in and that he can get his chance to shine because he has been waiting for a long time for his opportunity.
Yeah.
It's also, for me personally, always quite a bit of funny because like I usually walk up on the stage and especially when we have the enablers, U-Bender, and like say hi to players and wish all of them good luck. And at the Western Clash, we kind of identified every time I walk up to HeroesHearth and say, hey, good luck for the games, they start losing. The second I walk over from Dignitas, all of them are like, no, stay away from us. I'm like, okay, boys, lose the game, and then it was all fine.
There's
so
a lot of players.
We got the rhythm again.
I see.
There's a lot of players across esports that want to be a competitive player ever since a young age and end up kind of eventually finding a game that suits them after trying a lot of different games and then go down that path. But after speaking with Hami, what's really interesting about him is Heroes of the Storm was just a game he heard to be really fun. He checked it out. He never had any intentions of becoming a player who would play at BlizzCon, but the more he played the game, the more he felt like, wow, I'm really good at this. A lot of teams were like, yo, you want to play with us? You want to scrim with us? And then from that, at the beginning of Heroes of the Storm now all the way to now, as a rookie player at this event, I mean, he has gone full circle, and now he's at the top.
Yeah, and I mean, the HeroesHearth themselves shouted out, he got 2 5-man moshes in the Crucible, so Hami can play under pressure, and that's going to be needed because their opponents are a team that have been at the top or near the top of not only Europe, they've been at the top there. It's the entire world, and that's Team Dignitas. Dignitas came in, and while we talk about HeroesHearth's mentality of just trying to see how far they can go, the pressure's off of them. The pressure is on for Team Dignitas in a lot of ways because they're willing to admit that they feel like they've come in and they feel they can win it all.
Yeah, and that would of course also be the legacy for JPL if they can now win this tournament here. They had just the previous series, or one of them, where they, on the first map, maybe struggled a bit against the one, allowing them to get one of these kill compositions where their backline was in danger. But then immediately on the second map, they showed, okay, guys, that just was a fluke. Like, we're here to win, and we're going to make it a very dominant victory. Now they have to prove that against the best team in North America, but they're very confident that they can execute that.
Yeah, it always feels like at BlizzCon in particular, there's a European team that comes up to challenge the Korean in the finals, which Fnatic, multiple times, and now Dignitas did it at Mid-Season Brawl. And these teams, Dignitas and Fnatic, have always fought and been into each other in Europe, but at Globals, when we have these big global finals, they're the ones that can touch Korea. They're the ones who can actually, as Kowler has said before, make gods bleed. But this time Fnatic isn't here, so it's up to this team to do what they could not do last time at Mid-Season Brawl. And this is just the beginning, right? You know, how they seed here affects whether they'll hit maybe Miracle or Genji, because those are the 2 likely top seeds going into the bracket. So there's a lot of pressure here for this team, but they're also very experienced. So I think a lot of the fans are hoping for the best here, but I think this squad is not going to be one that cracks under all that enormous pressure, being the hope of the West, honestly, in this tournament.
Well, I mean, the crux of this team has been competing for so long. They took 2nd place in BlizzCon 2015 to Cloud9, and they've still been going. They've still stayed at the top, and they have won everything you could think of in the West. They are truly and definitively the best team in the West. It's just about Gen G really more than anyone. They've proven they can take out Tempest. They've proven they can take out Ballistics. You know, Miracle, still waiting to see on that one, but they truly are the best in the West.
And the thing is, even during the regular season, after the mid-season brawl, the goal was always BlizzCon. That was what they always talked about. They said, okay, mid-season brawl was amazing, but this from here on out is all about BlizzCon. We give the respect to every opponent that we face, but we have our eyes on the competition against the Korean teams again. We want to get revenge against Gen G. We're going to show the Koreans that we are the best in the world. We had a good showing at the mid-season brawl, and now it's time for us to qualify for BlizzCon, make sure that we are as dominant as we can be entering the tournament, and that showing that performance on the international stage again.
Up next, Battleground Pool for this best of 2 between NA and EU. We've got bans on Praxis Holdout, Infernal Shrines, consistent for both of the teams that we have. Game 1 goes to Tomb of the Spider Queen. Now, Tomb for North America has gotten a lot better. I feel like Team Freedom, if anyone, showed that at the Western Clash, that the NA has been willing and is able to hang with European teams. But make no mistake, for a long time, this has been the European map.
Absolutely. I mean, Fnatic and Dignitas both have always had great success on this map, not only, of course, back in 2016 in the regional qualifiers for BlizzCon, but in the league format as well. So I think this is a great map for both squads here. It almost feels like an even playing field, given North America's new tendencies.
I'm interested to see what exactly HeroesHearth is going to pull off, considering the comps that they played against Mindfreak on this map, where they pulled off a double support Vala composition.
I love that.
That's one of those things where even as a huge Vala fan, I'm still very, very torn. Dignitas, during the regular season play, has made that work occasionally, especially on Volskaya at the beginning of a Phase 1. But right now, there is a lot of problems when you're trying to execute that style, since especially Tassadire is now extremely squishy, even more so than before. You have the same problem on Vala, so quick execution can really become a problem if you go down that path. Then again, I'm not quite sure if HeroesHearth is really willing to play that against Dignitas. It's one thing playing that against Mindfreak, but now going up against the European first seed, executing the same type of composition is going to be much, much more difficult.
Well, I mean, Tempo played some of their strategies versus Gen G, so I think, you know, if you can say nothing else, is that NA is sticking to what they prepared, what they set up, and that Diablo is one of the things that can be really scary for a Vala like that, because it's just one slam. If you're not in the right position, then she can be popped like a bubble.
We see the Genji ban here, but Dignitas waited till the timer ran out to select that, so there was some consideration about leaving it open instead. They've already seen HeroesHearth use this earlier today, obviously on a very different, more open battleground for that reset comp. Perhaps they thought HeroesHearth would go down that same route again if Genji was left open and they have a counter strategy prepared, but instead they just decide to leave it by the wave side. And well, speaking of wave side, I mean, I said wave side because I see Johanna and I think wave clear immediately in my brain as the priority for this one.
Yeah, that is what started that double support Vala composition, is having Johanna having that wave clear.
And Johanna on the battleground excels more so than on any other map, simply because you get that added wave clear and the quick rotations between typically the top and the mid lane. At the same time, it's a huge priority for the hero here, so I'm not sure if Dignitas is going to have huge problems with that, because right now I think they're going to focus on the offlane, going to make sure that they're having a strong offlaner here. We talked a lot about especially hero or players like Ruby in the past, but instead they're going all ready for an attempt at a kill composition here with Tyrande and Jaina.
Yeah,
adding wave clear and pressure on the heroes in rotation.
Exactly, so much burst, so much control for early game. If they can get an oppressive tank, even something like a Garrosh in the next rotation here, even ETC not too bad on the map with these short distances between lanes.
Yeah.
HeroesHearth are going to have a lot of trouble rotating.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that will be solo support.
Looks like it.
Unless things have drastically changed. I don't believe I've ever seen HeroesHearth run a Abathur as anything other than BBJ's hero. That's quite a deviation from the double support Vala we were thinking earlier.
Now, Tomb, not necessarily the map where you would immediately jump to the conclusion that Abathur is a treasure here. Normally we're seeing that on bigger maps. We've seen one approach from back then ADRD's team at the Western Clash, the first one this year. That backfired pretty heavily. So I'm really interested to see if HeroesHearth can make that work. I mean, these Abathur compositions can... That's going to be a tough battle. The wolf against the penguin. I'm not quite sure who's going to win this one.
Hubber versus penguin.
Oh, man.
Only the best survives. My money's on the penguin.
Well, you know...
For real?
That's my spirit animal.
One vicious penguin.
I mean, I feel like when you look at what HeroesHearth is building here, I think Dignitas is going to have good ways to shut this down. Like, Garrosh is going to be one excellent way to give that kill pressure in the early game. They have Urel as well to provide armor, make it more difficult for Tracer to kind of be a hyper carry in this draft. And I wonder if HeroesHearth might just try to do something a little bit different here if they're going to be running this Abathur, because, you know, it's great with a Tracer, but I'd like to see something, maybe if we see like Uther Greymane or a Kerrigan come through here. I think there's ways that you can make that work as well. But it is just going to be that solo support.
Are we on Tomb?
Yeah.
The one thing that I find a little bit surprising in all of this is that Abathur was taken this early in the rotation. it's not like it's going to be contested. It's not like we see Dignitas all of a sudden looking at this and like, oh my god, they're going to pick Abathon.
Yeah, I don't even think Abathur gets banned versus AD already on Tomb, right?
Yeah, so you are in a situation where you could have hidden that on the last pick. I was until they just revealed the Junkrat and the Haka waiting for something else that completely is just like, oh my god, they wanted to hide that. But that's not really the case. So they allow Dignitas or show them early what their intention is with that Abathur, and that allows Dignitas to prepare for it. And now we have a siege-up composition, we have strong front line.
Good combos with the Jaina and the Tron and Garrosh.
Yeah, for me, I look at this HeroesHearth Esports draft and it just feels too NA to me. Like, I can't wrap my head around the point. I mean, it's a tiny map with the Haka, so there's no real global with that. I was leading sort of the same thought as Counter, like, why pick this early in the draft unless you're going to surprise Uther Greymane, do something really old school here, but to pull out the Junkrat and the Haka, it just feels like when I look at this draft, I don't feel anything synergistic about it, whereas when I look at Dignitas, I see the whole theme, I see the whole idea. It's so easy to figure out what Dignitas is trying to do, and it's so powerful.
I mean, they have quite a bit of wave clear. They can try and also get some burst damage through with Tracer. The thing is, the longer any fight lasts, the less of a foothold HeroesHearth is going to have in these battles. And you have a heavy auto attack hero already on the side of Hammer. You have Tyrande, which can, with the Hunter's Mark, make Tracer's life a living hell, or any other hero for that matter. Johanna is going to have a bit of an easier time with the Font against Tyrande herself, but then you also add Garrosh onto the equation, so I feel it's going to be tough for HeroesHearth. Then again, I've watched them with compositions in the past, granted in their own region, where I was just like, okay, how are they going to play this? And I feel they always did really well capitalizing on opponents' mistakes. I'm just not sure if they get these opportunities playing against Dignitas.
Right, it's strategic, and it's clear that they had a game plan going into this, picking the Abathur on Tomb to Spider Queen. I also think there is a small amount of chaos that they should be able to capitalize on, things like Junkrat, things like Tracer, but bear that in mind, seeing all of that and then being able to get the Sergeant Hammer as a counter to have some macro pressure. We'll see how it works out for both teams as we're heading over to the casters, Trixler and Dreadnought, for game one.
Finally, our #1 seeds from each region is finally here to square off. But did you think we would be getting these compositions, Dread?
You know, it's a little bit wild here. I didn't know if we would still get this from HeroesHearth Esports going up against Dignitas, because when we got that North American flavor from them before, I was wondering, is that them trying to hide things, but still sticking to what they know. But, you know, I think everybody here has been pleasantly surprised with HeroesHearth and their kind of self-control here. And so whether or not they can display that against Dignitas, that's what we're here to find out.
I will say my excitement for the series has heightened dramatically since we saw them play against Leftovers. The discipline from HHE was on full display in that series, and I can't wait to see what they can pull off against Dignitas. Here we go. On the far left side in the blue, JPO on Garrosh, Poik on Jaina, Wubby on Yrel, Snitch on Sergeant Hammer, and Zelia to play Tyrande.
In the red here with a solo support Abathur composition, the NA flavor, it is going to be Homicidal on the Junkrat. We have Ishbu on Johanna, McIntyre repping the Dahaka here on Tomb, BBJ on his Abathur as always, and Crowan representing the Tracer. In the red, it's HeroesHearth Esports.
One of my favorite things about you, Dread, is whenever you're watching a match, you usually look at rotations and how people are going to be moving a lot. And I'm looking at these two compositions, and it seems like a lot of the movement is going to be coming in the form of HeroesHearth. But where do you make that movement be so effective? Do you put Junkrat against Sergeant Hammer?
So the biggest thing is that you need to be able to stop the bleeding of the Sergeant Hammer pressure wherever it may be. And for now, that's going to be starting in mid and top. But the most important element for HeroesHearth is offlane pressure with the Tracer Abathur into the Dahaka lane, either top or bottom. So already we see the double wave clear on the top half. Expect one of those two to split. And whenever Dignitas goes bottom, Tracer should be top. And unless there is a kill opportunity, that's the focus here for HeroesHearth.
One of the best things about Junkrat, too, is he can have that reaction. It can also be a late reaction due to him being able to jump around, do the concussive mine, so you'd be watching him also keep an eye on that Sergeant Hammer. Maybe even poke her down a little bit, too, especially at level 4 when you're trying to stack up that grenade quest and get extra damage in. Lots of tools available here for HeroesHearth, but it also always comes down to that first turn-in. Who is going to get that here? For HeroesHearth, they would love to have that turn-in. Tracer wants space. He wants to be able to open up this map and find spots which you can finally zip in and find a kill.
Yeah, especially with the Abathur composition, because they want to kind of be all over splitting up Team Dignitas and not allowing them to be this Deathball composition that they can be. And though, you know, Deathball normally when we say that, it's very aggressive. Dignitas is more of a slow sieging, but it is surely going to be the wall of Dignitas that HeroesHearth is trying to kind of skirt on by there with the Tracer.
And with that all being said here, Team Dignitas is fully aware of the plan here of HeroesHearth Esports. They've ran this in the past before. Not on this Battleground, we've had it on Towers of Doom, we've had it on Infernal Shrines, and they even dabbled it a little bit on Volskaya Foundry. But they've also played against ADRD, who has ran some Avatar competitions in the past, on the old lineup of Zealots. So Team Dignitas is aware of what Avatar can pull off on this Battleground. It's just a matter of HeroesHearth Esports. Do they have enough experience here to punish Dignitas and get that opening they're looking for?
And it really, you know, big kudos here should go to Wubby and how he's played that last couple of lanes, because HeroesHearth timing with the rotation. Hold on, Tracer caught out, force a recall there. Great job by Crowan, able to dodge the stun combo. But what I was going to say is just that Wubby, and the time sensitivity of how much damage he can get on those minions, stops Crowan's siege capabilities on bottom, and he got a lot more damage out than I think they expected, making that rotation. Maybe one clip of ammo came out from Tracer there onto the turret. That's a big setback for HeroesHearth.
And if there's any hero that will allow for Wubby to excel in a lane, even if it is a horrible one, it's going to be Yorel. It's someone that he's been playing often in HGC Europe. So far, though, keeping an eye on everything. Nothing too crazy happening for our teams in terms of turn-ins, but Voik might be in trouble as Crowan comes in, delivers a pulse bomb, and puts him down to less than quarter health.
And here you can see HeroesHearth trying to do what I was talking about before with the Junkrat in the off lane. Just, it's pretty much prepping one super wave, if you will. It's not a big super wave like we can get on maps like Cursed Hollow, but just as big a wave as possible, and then get that micro pressure out into the downtime, hoping to find opportunities beyond that to get a couple of gem turn-ins in the process.
So far, Dignitas playing it safe, keeping Snitch hidden in the bushes here, watching out for that Tracer that's trying to move around the map. Johanna leading the charge with that wave clear. She's pretty instrumental for this composition. You want a tank that can step up, clear out a lane, but make sure she doesn't get picked off. That way Tracer can go do her job. And speaking of her job, already in the bottom here against Wubby, and trying to put out some damage, but Wubby, he's biting back pretty fiercely.
Yeah, we got Dig with a counter rotation this time. Going to be trying to match that at HeroesHearth on bottom. HeroesHearth, I think if you were to set a bar of what they would like to have so far when it comes to this offlane pressure, they're a little bit behind. That top turret on bottom front wall should have been able to go down either the way before that where I was complimenting Wubby, or that transition from HeroesHearth. So good job here from Dig. They are very much stopping the cadence that HeroesHearth desires.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit curious there. I thought Sergeant Hammer would have more protection, but Dignitas is starting to allow Sergeant Hammer to kind of be on her own, rotating around with that Tracer, chasing her down. As we mentioned before, HeroesHearth wants to get that turn in, but Dignitas is making a strong statement here. You are not getting the turn in. We are the ones that are going to try and drop off our gems, and if you come over, we want this fight.
Well, be able to get that turn in with a nice flip there from JPL. McIntyre was flanking for a moment. Great job from them, leaving them now with 40 on reserve, 30 for the members of HeroesHearth. Throwing, stepping up for a moment, but he's going to step back real quick there. Poik with that Jaina damage. It hurt.
One thing about not having support is you don't have those quick heals that come at the last second. The moment your Carapace drops off of Tracer, she has to back away. Dignitas, knowing this, finally goes for the drop in, and Wubby finding himself here on the right side, goes for the knockback, and boy, they find a Junkrat. Big kill there, and Wubby still dancing around.
Yeah, still dancing around, but Wubby maybe needs to be able to make it out there. It's a 1-for-1, now 1-for-2 in favor of HeroesHearth Esports. The chaos there of the Avatar with the duck cross-supporting that. You can see him changing his hats mid-skirmish is why they were able to recover in that fight. But it should be noted, Webweaver's here for Dignitas, and more importantly, a Sergeant Hammer wailing away at those structures behind it. Dignitas, though that wasn't maybe ideal, they are still in fine circumstances here.
Yeah, at least you get their Webweavers pushing here, and they don't have that Junkrat, which is the main primary source of wave clear here for HeroesHearth Esports to start pushing that back. The bad news is they lost 2 members, so they can't fully commit to the idea of trying to clear out these turrets. And there is a different element that we need to consider when you're looking at Avatar on this Battleground. Mule. Mule comes in here. You can't break down these turrets for these forts, which is something Sergeant Hammer is wanting to do to open the map themselves here. You find yourself in a spot where you are wasting turn-ins.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in. McIntyre actually with a very bold transition there, forces Burrow down to flip over the groundbreaker there. McIntyre no longer with us, as that is going to be another kill here for Team Dignitas. Really kind of creating some leniency over what that was that last Webweaver phase. Losing that member, it was a setback for Dig, but now getting that kill, I feel like they're building up quite a bit of momentum here.
The worst part too is you lose out on gems there. What was that, 20 gems being lost there on Dahaka? He's your bottom laner. He's the one that's going to hold the primary source of a lot of your income, and now that's missing here for HeroesHearth here, which means they don't have that second turn that you typically see on this Battleground, especially if you get to level 10 quicker than your opponent. So a big kill there from Team Dignitas. When it's all said and done, they broke down the wall in the middle, got some damage on the wall on the bottom, nothing too substantial yet, but the second turn is where we should be seeing them open up the map. They still need more gems as we have a fight down here on the Giants.
Yeah, McIntyre here is going to get the mark. Wubby going in, Lunar Flare is going to connect. Burrow for a moment is going to be available, but it's stopping the inevitable flip over, forcing out the recall on Rowan, but he's going to end up on the wrong side of Team Dignitas here, double kill for them, and now 10 just around the corner.
And this is one of those things when it comes to a composition. HeroesHearth Esports has built a composition where they play around Team Dignitas. They do not want to be in range of Sergeant Hammer. They do not want to have these fights. They don't want to be losing people, especially before level 10 here. And it's getting worse. Ishbu in trouble here. Already using Iron Skin. There's a taunt. There's a toss. There's the damage as Poik is looking for the kill. Ishbu is down.
HeroesHearth Esports dropping 23 gems there on the ground. That was their counterplay to this momentum that Dignitas is building over the next couple of seconds. Find a way to get your 10s, find a way to try and delay, get that Web Weaver phase for yourself. But with that kill, Dignitas now is primed and ready to get another Web Weaver phase. Crowan trying to go in for a play for a moment. Going to be thwarted there by Poik. Dignitas, though, is very much going to open this battleground up. Though, Mule trying to make work happen there in the mid lane.
One of the big things here is going to be important as we continue to go through the mid to late game here is that resistance pickup at level 1, that spell armor coming in for Tyrande. With Team Dignitas opening up the battleground and finally getting supports there, they're eventually going to overextend away from safety, right? And one of the best ways to make sure that you don't get killed off by a pulse bomb is to have spell resistance. Tyrande is going to be able to provide that end phase, which means Team Dignitas has to continue to get these kills. Well, should be able to move forward.
They're going in. Jane is going to be the Poik actually with the into the fray. The pulse bomb on top of him. He's going to go down here. HeroesHearth find a kill. Ardent Defender now popped by Wubby. Will be able to help him get the retreat there. BBJ just being that mosquito that he can be on the Tracer. Though it is a silver lining here for HeroesHearth Esports, there are still a lot of things they need to recover in this game based on the kind of creativity behind this composition. They are a composition that does well from ahead, never from behind.
Especially with them not having Ultimate Evolution for a good minute here. Team Dignitas wants to try and not pick a fight before they have all 5 members back. Geno's on her way, but you already see Wubby with that Ardent Defender down. Already down to about a quarter HP, but he has saved those gems, which is a big deal here for Team Dignitas. Crowan continuing to keep up the fight, but you see that moment you were talking about. When you're behind and you're a Tracer trying to jump into an attack and Sergeant Hammer gets 2 auto attacks on you, you're down to half HP. Yeah. You're in such a horrible position.
Yeah, it is a tough position to be in, and I would just like to say really quickly, welcome all of you coming over from StarCraft. Thank you very much for tuning in here. If you're a Terran player, I am sure that is a very common sight you see there with Snitch posting up on that Sergeant Hammer, a very difficult hero to be able to deal with here. Turns out it's just as pesky in Heroes of the Storm, correct?
If you're a Zerg player right now, you're probably having some flashbacks. Sergeant Hammer or any tanks that are set up are very annoying to deal with. The same is said here when it comes to Heroes of the Storm. But right now, Team Dignitas, one of our best contenders here for the HGC to maybe even get a big victory, is showcasing themselves against HeroesHearth Esports, which is the #1 team in North America.
Webweaver's now descending 13 talents here around the corner for Dignitas. The Knights going to be stopping for a moment. Crowan comes in with a pulse bomb, but Poik's going to be just fine thanks to that level 1 out from Zalia. Now Crowan, he might not be fine. There's the Groundbreaker is there. BFG through, and Dig find another kill.
They find another kill, and suddenly HeroesHearth Esports and their kill potential goes down the drain. Tracer is needed to find these kills. Sure, Junkrat can toss people back, give you that wave clear, but he's not the hero to come over and give you many kills whatsoever. JPL steps up and even gets a Groundbreaker there on Hami. Was he able to actually get that before the Riptire connected?
I believe he got it.
Wow.
I think he might have, actually, at that point in time. Very well done there. McIntyre trying to find a way out, but that Jaina slow, those do not stop. Isolation attempted there for a moment. Does end up connecting, but it does not stop the damage here. Dignitas just breaking the base of HeroesHearth Esports. And as I said before, HeroesHearth comp loves to snowball with their advantages when they're ahead, and they're so far behind at this point. I feel like if you're Dignitas, you're just looking for game number 2.
Yeah, you certainly are. Team Dignitas is in a great position. The first layer of defense is already down. They're building up for the 3rd turn in. They're already at that 38 gem mark and a couple of webs cleaned up. They'll be able to move in towards that. There is good news for HeroesHearth Esports. They still have a turn in available, and they're not too far behind. They're about to hit level 13, so they'll be on even talent tiers, but they have got to turn up the heat soon. They need to find a way to break Dignitas and the Sergeant Hammer composition that they have built so well.
And if it's going to exist anywhere, it's got to be with the Webweaver phase and 13 talents here before 16 is achieved by Team Dignitas. Dignitas is in a position, though, to realistically, with this night camp, buy a couple of moments of breathing room, pick up Giants on bottom, help delay that out as well. And once both of those end up going down and clear, Dignitas likely is going to be having that Webweaver phase and, more importantly, the 16. So this is a very tense and impactful moment here for HeroesHearth.
Especially when you consider the 16s for Team Dignitas. I mean, you got Giant Killer for Sergeant Hammer to help put more damage on top of Johanna should they have that blind available. You have Jaina that can bring in the spell resistance, burn that down, or even get a root if you really want to take someone out. When you add that with Tyrande, things get quite difficult for HeroesHearth Esports. HeroesHearth stepping up. You have Johanna using the Iron Skin, trying to find someone to condemn forward. A drag even coming out from McIntyre, but nothing lands.
Snitch just posted up there on that hammer. Ishbu now going to move up, goes in. We see Jaina still up on bottom, but they're going to initiate the fight. The flip, the taunt comes through. Ishbu is going to be blown up here. 4 versus 5, no problem, says Team Dignitas. And now Point joining the rest of Team Dignitas here. Azalea gets flipped over. Lunar Flare will be available in a moment. The Welly will get the auto to slow. Crowan, that's dash 1. I think he used one before too. Will they get the recall?
Snitch coming in with a flank on a Sergeant Hammer, by the way. Sneaking forward, and Tracer pinned against the wall and taken out as Team Dignitas takes 2 down, and they grab a 3-level lead, can look at the boss, and they have a turn-in available.
Yeah, normally this is not a situation where you would be asking, is this going to be game this early on Tomb of the Spider Queen? But based on the 3-level lead, the talent tier advantages, and again, I need to bring up those compositions. The only reason Dignitas may not be looking for that is, number 1, if HeroesHearth somehow can burst this boss very effectively before things become a problem, which, shout out to Dig, very clever play to stall this out here. And the only other remaining factor is Mule. If for some reason they don't think they can all in the core and truly win, if it falls to that 2%, you know that's how HeroesHearth can come back.
Always sitting in the back of your head, but Team Dignitas is now equipping themselves to go for that aggressive play in the top lane. You already see Sergeant Hammer moving forward. They have all 5 members in this area. Zelia waiting for the Web Weaver to get across that quarter mark on the map, and then he'll grab this boss as well to have the simultaneous push. The huge wall of Dignitas heading in the top lane, looking for a keep, and maybe even ending this game.
You can see that tight corridor where Ishbu is the only flank opportunity to the top lane if you are HeroesHearth Esports, and it's very predictable because of that. JPL looking to anchor. There is Snitch starting to wail away, prepping, peppering away there at the front walls. Boss here, Web Weaver's here. What can HeroesHearth Esports do? We're about to find out.
They gotta start dropping down Hama here. He's gotta be clearing up these minion waves, putting out damage as can, throwing out the grenades. Maybe even a Riptire would be great for them. BBJ even cloning Junkrat, realizing wave clear is so important. But Johanna, where did she go?
It's a magic trick. She's just gone. Very well done there by Dignitas, flipping over, finding the kill. Crowan's going to receive the same fate there as Ishbu very much did. And Dignitas, we questioned, would they second guess going for the core? Their posturing right now says no. They are ready to send this to a game number 2. North America's #1 seed versus Europe's #1 seed, and they come out dominant.
Jaina showing off the strength of a Northern exposure with a Hunter Mark. Johanna deleted before our eyes, something you don't typically see in a competitive match. It's one of our tankiest tanks you have in the HGC, but Team Dignitas pulls it off as they get a 1-0 over HeroesHearth Esports, and they do it in a solid manner, pulling out the hammer composition. HeroesHearth Esports pulling out a bit of a cheeky composition. Doesn't work out for them, but still, Dignitas just shows why they are the best of the best.
Very well done here by Dignitas, and got to raise a couple of questions when looking at HeroesHearth Esports going into a game number 2. Will we still get what was true to them, or are we going to see some deviation for the first time? Because it was clear they came in with a game plan, with the first pick Johanna. You know, I believe the panel even highlighted it. It's not necessarily something we see every day anymore here. So what is the game plan, and how much do we see shifted up here from them?
Well, let's actually go to our panel and see what they think about all of that you just mentioned there, Dread.
Well, HeroesHearth has played that kind of composition a couple times before in North America with the solo Abathur on Tomb using the Tracer, but here Team Dignitas slapped it down.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty dominant victory. Dignitas didn't have too many problems here. Again, it can be deceiving because this is a best of 2, so it doesn't really matter what the, first map, a victory, great, but anything else from Dignitas' perspective, then a 2-0 would be a disappointment. So even though you secure a strong win here, I feel it was more so a compositional thing than an execution problem. So HeroesHearth can definitely come back swimming in game number 2.
Yeah, I feel like that hammer play was just so strong versus that 2-wolf because of just the siege pressure they could put on, making sure to get structures against that Abathur.
They were always getting structures. They were always putting that pressure on in the lane. And, you know, Calvin and I briefly discussed during the ending parts of that game, it just felt like Snitch never had to unsiege. And that's when you're having a hammer that's that well protected, the longer the game goes on, you're wondering, like, why is he having no problems? Like, this comp is just functionally not working. It's not functioning as it's supposed to. If a Sergeant Hammer is able to just kill members with BFG casually, like, he's sieging a wall, he sends the BFG backwards and kills someone and continues to siege forward. Like, this composition is just not going to work.
Once that HeroesHearth fell behind, it was just really tough for them to execute the composition and start a comeback there. And it was also JPL really controlling the turn-in spots extremely well, baiting out the Iron Skin on Johanna, having that little battle there in the front line, and every single time Iron Skin was on a cooldown, then he looked for the move to try and get the flip, get the taunt, and immediately everybody collapsed on the same target. Got the BFG in, the Jaina damage, Toranda blew the front line up, and from there on out, the Abathur copy comes in too late, and it's just a cleanup job.
Yeah, they made a Johanna look like a Jaina. It was fast, and Hami was trying to throw out the mines to get maybe the unsieging to happen, but it wasn't enough. Team Dignitas gets game 1. We'll see if Heroes Hearth can bring it back game 2 after a word from our sponsors.